I would like to welcome all the members of the public at this Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yep. Travis Oakley.
Here.
Marcus Simmons.
Here.
Marshall Ballard.
Here.
Pat Dorsey.
Here.
Don Black.
Here.
Ann Shout.
Here.
Raymond Layson.
Here.
Karen Basie.
Here.
Sonny Aluzo.
Here.
Margie Dunn. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we open business, I would like to welcome our new member, Travis Bailey. I look forward to working with you, and I'm sure other members of the board feel the same. Thank you. The first item on the agenda now is the approval of the minutes from January 2019, February 2019, and March 2019, and all those for April and September. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes as so provided?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Now we go on to new business. Item 3A is the consideration of a request of property owners Charles P. and Dana M. Riddick to establish a zoning designation of R20 for a parcel that is 6.18 acres. The parcel is located at 618 West Thurman Road and is further identified as Craven County Parcel ID 7-109-1501. Can we have staff review on this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The Chair introduced the item already. This is an initial zoning. This property was recently annexed in December into the city limits. Part of that is to then apply an initial zoning to it. It was previously unzoned. It was not in the city limits. So there's the site of where the site is, off West Thurman Road, near US 70. Adjacent zoning, you can see the parcel next to the parcel is already, that was annexed into the city a few months back. Also requested the initial zoning of R20 on that one also. R20 is our rural residential district designed to accommodate low-density single-family dwellings. 20,000 square foot minimum square feet of the lot. This one obviously surpasses that. It is a residential district in general, encouraging residential uses, single-family, multifamily, in the preservation of rural character of land, and to prohibit commercial and industrial type uses that would be undesirable for low-intensity, density residential development. And also, this is straight from our land development regulations on what R20 is. So, staff recommends approval of the request to initially zone 618 West Thurman to R20. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Do members of the board have any questions from planning and zoning, development services? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak for the adoption of this resolution? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak against adopting this resolution for the initial zoning? Having heard none, is there anybody who would like to make a motion to approve this item 3A that is on the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the initial zoning as presented to the Board of Aldermen.
I second that.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. The motion passes.
Thank you.
The next article of business is an Overlook Holdings that McKim and Creed are requesting a general plan approval for Carolina Colors Bayberry Park Subdivision, which is a proposed 48-lot major division. This section is multi-phase development It's located on 15.41 acres in R8 zoning district. The site is located to the south side of Creekscape Crossing, Ward 3. Does the staff have any recommendations?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to that, the average lot size for the subdivision is 10,323 square feet. There'll be approximately 3,000 square feet of new public roads in this subdivision. The subdivision also provides 1.5 acres of common space, and all utilities will be provided by the city of New Bern. There's your location map, on the south side of Carolina Colors. We've approved a subdivision just adjacent to this a couple months ago. The subdivision plan itself, staff has reviewed the general plan for Carolina Colors, Bayberry Park, Phase 3. I find it meets all the requirements of 1579 Sub A of the Land Use Ordinance, and we recommend approval of this general plan.
Do any members of this board have any questions for staff on this plan?
Jeff, has this already been through department site plan review?
Correct.
Okay. I just didn't see that in here, but as long as it has been, there were no comments that were not resolved.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak for adopting this redevelopment zoning?
Good evening. My name is Kip Paragoy. I live at 16 Bats Hill Road, and I represent Overlook Holdings, who is the developer of this parcel of land. Jeff has covered most of the details associated with what we're trying to do. Bayberry Park has been a very successful addition to the city of New Bern and to Carolina Colors. Would mention one or two other things there. There will be a significant stormwater retention pond have to be developed with this because it'll be a high-density stormwater permit. And we're also cooperating at the request of the city engineer to provide a water line easement from the existing water tank that's down in the corner of this property into our subdivision to help alleviate some issues they have with that water tank and water circulation. So we're working with them on that, and the plat has that easement shown on it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do any members of this board have questions?
Kip, have you already obtained your DEQ permits?
No, we don't. They're all written up, but we don't submit it until after we've been through this process in case there's any changes required.
Sure. So Jeff, I presume that the Department of Site Plan Review is contingent upon DEQ.
Oh, yeah, always.
approval.
Comments, yes, sir.
Okay. All I got.
We know we're gonna get that. Where is the easement for the water?
It is comes out on the angle of that stormwater pond. It comes right down the side of the stormwater pond. The tank is to the right-hand top corner of the plat that you're looking at.
Okay, how high is it?
How high?
How high is that tank going to be?
I don't know how tall that tank is. I'm not into that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to ask? Okay.
My name is Bernard White, 1811 Durham Street. I got a question. That's going to be a housing development for people to live. Is there a space there for a playground for little children to play?
In Bayberry, yeah, there is one.
I'm talking about in that area right there, that next building right there.
I can't see.
There used to be, and I know things change, but anytime you build a housing development, whatever it is, people that have children, smaller children, they can't walk and go other places, but they can take their children outside in a little area which is designated as a playground for them, and their children can have some activities. I've noticed over the last period of years, it's not happening. And when I ask somebody about it, they normally choke up. There should be a little play there for anybody who has children.
Isn't that on the corner here, Kip, to the left of this plan? Yeah,
There's a playground there, and it's got sidewalks too.
I think it's this here. Yeah, because that whole area has sidewalks,
Yeah?
and you walk over to it, and it's a secluded little area. They've already got some play equipment there.
It's also a subdivision of a major development.
Well, I'm just bringing it back up. It's supposed to be some recreational space for the smaller kids.
There is.
People pushing the kids in little strollers, whatever it is, they can go out there. And it seems like we got away from that a little bit.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in opposition to the adoption of this item 3B? No. Jeff, it's my understanding that we are making the final approval. This is not a recommendation to the Board of
Correct.
Development. This is,
It'll come back to you for final subdivision plan approval once they're ready, once they do all the improvements that are presented, and they're ready to sell lots.
okay.
So this gives the developer the authority to move forward with beginning the site development.
At this point, do I hear any motion to adopt, to approve the item 3B as so described?
I make a motion.
Second. We have a motion. The motion has been seconded. All those in favor of adopting this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Now, the final part of new business is a consideration of a request from property owners Trident by Fire to rezone one parcel of 0.14 acres from R6 residential district to C5 office and institutional district. The parcel is located at 524 Rountree Street and is further identified as Craven County Parcel ID 8-008-047. This is a recommendation we are making to the Board of Aldermen as it's a rezoning. Staff review, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you said, this is a request by Tried by Fire. The applicant is here tonight, along with their architect, to rezone a parcel to C5 office and institutional. There's the site right there. It's at the corner of Rountree and Reisenstein. Existing zoning is R6 and C3, and that pink is C4? Correct. Pink is C4. I added another one just to show the site is in the upper left-hand corner where it says Reisenstein. That's essentially where the lot is. You'll see that the blue is the nearest C5 zone property. Everything else darker red is C3 along Broad Street. That lighter is C4. Office and institutional district. It's the principal use of land is for residential. Is for residences with certain limited business and professional offices. The idea here is that it is a support type commercial use for residential areas of the city. To encourage land for institutional offices purposes and to prohibit commercial, mostly retail, essentially. I'll go into that a little later. There was a question from one of the board members about allowing what is allowed in the C5 office and institution. The short answer to that is office and institutional uses like doctor's offices, chiropractors, government buildings, things like that. Retail is explicitly prohibited in this district. So again, it serves as a transition zone. The zoning itself serves as a transition zone between more intensive business districts and less intensive residential districts, and again provides those support type services to residential areas. So here was from the table of permissible uses. Uses are allowed as residential. Multifamily uses are allowed by a special use permit if that is granted. Boarding and rooming houses are also, independent living facilities also, elderly assisted living facilities by special use permit in this district. The sales and rentals of goods, merchandise, and equipment is not allowed. What is allowed, office, clerical, research services, and veterinarian services are allowed in the C5 district. So staff, we have reviewed the request. We've met with the applicant for a few years now. And we do recommend approval of this request from R6 to C5. I'll answer any questions. The applicant is also here to answer any questions if you have.
Does anybody have a question for staff? Well, at this point, we would like to hear from the public of anybody supporting the adoption of this resolution plan. Having heard none, does anybody want to speak against the adoption of this rezoning request? Having heard...
Rountree Street part of the flood zone, or is that area not the flood zone? Rountree Street. So Rountree and...
Rountree's probably outside the 100-year flood.
It's outside.
Ma'am, they're telling me that it's outside the flood zone.
Yep. Yes.
At this point, this is a request being made for the Board of Aldermen to rezone this parcel. Do I hear a motion to approve the rezoning? If so, please make it.
So moved.
Second. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of the adoption of this for the Board of Aldermen, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. The motion so passes. We are now done with the new business, and we have before us the continuation and consideration of from the City of New Bern Redevelopment Commission to adopt the proposed redevelopment plan for the boundary that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Board on April 2nd, 2019. At this point, we've had the public comments, and it passes on to us to discuss it. Staff, would you be able to share with us some of the new plans you have for us, i.e. the baseball field?
Okay,
and
yeah,
things
sure.
like that?
So, I'll put it on the overhead. Essentially, I was asked by a couple of P&Z members just to have this graphic available. It's been presented at our redevelopment commission, and two other community members who have asked for it, so just thought it was best to have that as on the screen to talk from. And that was, and essentially is how the Third Ave extension would function, and in creating a new baseball field, as it would cut through a corner of the existing smaller field that's in the Henderson Park area. And it was just a design idea that's been bantered about, but it does provide for a larger, more usable playing field for the community.
Does anybody have questions concerning this planned field as a possibility upon the redevelopment of the area?
I think this is a good compromise. I think that the Stanley White Building is still there. Places for people to meet in a large area is still there. And I think that it could be engineered and graded properly, so it won't be wet when it rains.
Jeff,
Yes.
sorry.
Uh-huh.
So everything shaded here or colored here, it's already city-owned property? Is that correct?
No, there's parcels in there, it would have to be purchased.
So they'll have to be
There's a
purchased.
handful of city-owned properties, not very many.
Not contiguous,
There's
okay,
two
okay.
structures in there, that will have to be, purchased.
Okay.
But again, it's not all city-owned, no, sir.
Sure, okay. Thank you.
Is there any provision for buildings like a locker room and whatnot for people to change clothes in that area at all?
Beyond the facilities that would be located in the Stanley White Recreational Facility, there's nothing in this plan that would contemplate creating a new locker room or anything like that. Though there's plenty of space to do so.
The parcels that you're saying would have to be acquired,
Sure.
are they existing residents there, or is it just vacant property?
Majority of them are vacant. There's 2 parcels with structures on them that are rentals, non-owner occupied structures.
And there's no feedback on those rentals at this time, or are they not aware of this suggestion?
Have not. This is not in the plan.
I got you.
So this is the first time we're really talking about it. It was mentioned as a compromise on how to move forward. So this language, this idea, if the board, planning and zoning board, approves of it, your motion will have to be to incorporate this into the plan, and then I'll have to go back and do some number crunching and things like that to determine what the cost would be. So we haven't gotten there yet.
Do you have any idea at all what it would cost to
No.
purchase these properties?
I do not.
Now, my understanding is any viable housing that is going to be taken down, the city is required to replace.
Yes. So that's a two-part thing. So any kind of transaction is open to whatever the seller and the buyer want to do. The buyer, when we built the extension of 3rd Avenue through to Stanley White, we purchased those homes outright from the owner, and they were happy with the cost, with that revenue, and that was the end of the story. If there's a way that the property could be gifted to the redevelopment commission or the city, and we cause a new structure to be built, that could be part of the deal also. Or they just take the check and do what they want with the money. So there's a couple different ways to acquire the property. It's not simply you must rebuild the home. It's not owner occupied, so it's a little different. Yeah.
So the person who is selling the property has choices.
Correct.
Are there any other questions? The public hearing is over, sir. We had that last month. I invited the city attorney here to explain the law to everybody here, and we welcome him to the podium to explain the process to everybody here. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. My pleasure, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Scott Davis. I'm the city attorney. Chairman and staff asked me to attend tonight in the hopes that I might be helpful to you to answer any questions you might have, but to also take you through what the statute requires to approve a redevelopment plan. I will spare you a lot of the smaller details, but generally, the Board of Aldermen creates a redevelopment commission. That commission is then filled and appointed with folks to put together a redevelopment plan. The statute does not have any time requirements with respect to how long it might take for them to put together that plan. They have the time and the resources to pull in experts, developers, citizens, and present what they believe is the best geographic designation for the area and the best plan within that area. Once that is done, they have a public hearing, they take input, and they pass that draft plan on to this board. This board, under the statute, has 45 days from that submission or your first meeting to ensure that the plan is consistent with the city's general comprehensive plan. Okay? And this is where it can get confusing. You are the Planning and Zoning Board. Your job is to be experts in the city's land use ordinance. Those are the zoning rules, all of the city's land use plans, pedestrian plans, bicycle plans, flood plans, all those are under your purview. So you take that plan and then you apply your expertise to that plan to make sure that what's being proposed is not inconsistent with other existing plans. I know that it's very tempting to get that plan and then want to revisit that plan as if you were the redevelopment commission. But in 45 days, the legislature obviously doesn't intend that to be the case. You don't have the time or the resources to go and do the exploration that the redevelopment commission should have done. So you apply your expertise to that plan, make sure that it is not inconsistent with anything that you're aware of. If you find an inconsistency, then you point that out and you propose a modification that you believe brings that plan into conformity with any existing plans. Once you've done that, the plan goes through to the Redevelopment Commission to the Board of Aldermen, where they will vote it up or down, or possibly amend it if you've proposed some modifications to it. Make
Now,
sense?
And am I correct that this plan has a boundary as per the vote we did, and that boundary of the redevelopment area had to be filed with the Secretary of
Yes,
State?
sir. Yes, sir. That is done.
Go ahead, Greg.
I'm curious to know if I can ask it, if Teresa is on this item.
I don't.
Teresa Lee?
Yes,
She's the chair of the redevelopment commission.
I thought so, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, and let me say this too, in the spirit of being helpful. I know this is, a lot of folks have put a lot of time and a lot of thought, a lot of effort into this. Obviously, a lot of folks care deeply about this plan. Whatever you do tonight is simply a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. There will be a public hearing in front of the Board of Aldermen to revisit these issues. That board will vote it up or down. But more importantly, the Redevelopment Commission always retains the power to amend the plan with the Board of Aldermen's approval. Okay? So whatever happens tonight and whatever happens before the Board of Aldermen is always open for discussion. And I assure you, as the years go by, this plan will not be implemented overnight. As the years go by, phases change. As phases change and the world changes, the plan will change. And the Redevelopment Commission will revisit it. They'll have public hearings. That proposed amendment will skip you in the future and go straight to the Board of Aldermen, and then they'll have a public hearing to consider any future amendments. So the point is, it's a living plan, it's a living document, so we don't need to get overly concerned that if once it's blessed, it's in stone and can't ever be changed.
It is our duty then to, if we want this baseball field incorporated in the plan, we have to make that amendment with the amendment of the suggested baseball field.
Yes, sir, exactly. There would be a vote to approve the plan with a proposed amendment to include this illustration and this recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. Exactly. And just to put a finer point too, procedurally, when I mentioned that you have 45 days to approve it, if you don't approve it in that 45 days, the plan goes to the Board of Aldermen without a recommendation at all.
Is it possible for the public to speak again tonight, since it's been a month since we last discussed this?
Well, procedurally, this board can do whatever this board wants to do. The law requires that you have a public hearing. And if you've done that, you've met the requirements of the law. But it's this board's meeting. And if this board wants to entertain a motion to allow public comment, then the board can do that.
And I would like to make a motion to allow public comment tonight.
Second.
All those, we have a motion before us to open up this meeting to public comment. All those in favor of such motion say aye. Aye. All those in favor say nay. The motion carries. At this point, we would like to open up the meeting to public comment. All those in favor of the plan, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and all those opposed to the plan, state your name and address, and make sure that you're registered in the log.
Praise the Lord. My name is Reverend Ethel Sampson. I live at 1038 Sampson Street in New Bern. The reason I came is because we live up in that territory, and I feel that it's justifiable for us to have a say-so in anything that is coming to our neighborhood. And I do exactly what I'm supposed to do for people. And sometimes you go out of the box. Right now, I'm out of the box. And I want y'all to know, this has been laying on my heart for quite a while. And I try my best to come down here and do what's pleasing in God's sight and the sight of the people. But December the 15th, on my 64th wedding anniversary, I suffered a stroke. It wasn't because of the things that I've been doing, like people say I do too much. That wasn't it. It was because of what's happening in the Duffield area. You see, a lot of you are not, none of you here as old as I am, I'm sure of that, except Mother Mary Smith. But I know for a fact that we deserve the right to speak and say what is going on in our neighborhood. We are tax-paying people, and I do not think it's fair to treat us like that, because I was there from the beginning. I can go back at least 75 years, even I'll be 87 if I live to see April, but 75 years, and I know how influenced the Duffield area used to be. And if they have a place like this, they have other places, a whole lot of the area already up to date, and won't cost all that much money. But if they're going to use the taxpayers' money and do things that's not pleasing our sight, I do not feel it's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be sure that you've signed in, and please state your name and address.
Told me that when I
For
first
the
got
record.
here. My name again is Bernard Wesley White, 1811 Durham Street. We had a discussion about baseball field, and that baseball field is not to be touched. As it stands, what I'm looking at now said enlarging. The field, when it was first done, it was enlarged before they even put the other posts in. And now they came and made it a little smaller regulation size, which left about 30 feet or more in the back. And now we're talking about enlarging it again. We never approved of that. Our people in the community don't know anything about that. And the field, the baseball field itself, is all right as it is. There's no need of touching that.
Thank you.
You know, we the one playing the field.
My name is Passion Alicia London. I'm from 1305 Main Street here in New Bern, North Carolina. My question is, I don't have a problem with the baseball field. I don't have a problem with enlarging it, but I have been a resident for 23 years in the same home. Before I moved down here, my aunt was renting out the house that we bought. My concern is, I understand they want to beautify the neighborhood, but what is taking so long with beautifying the neighborhood of Duffield when all the rest of these areas around here are being built up around us? And Duffield is still in poverty, a very poverty-stricken area where we get flooded out every year. We have to pay $60,000 out of our pockets every single year because our house gets damaged and gets flooded away, and we lose everything we have every single time a flood comes. And we have to save because we know that we're going to get flooded out again and again and again. and y'all continuously keep building up these communities all around us. We have to see all these beautified suburban areas built up around us, and Duffield is still in poverty, and houses are coming. You don't have to tear them down because they're coming down by themselves. And I need to know, as a committee, this is my first time here, so excuse me if I am out of order with saying anything to you all. But I am very frustrated and very tired of seeing my mother's house get flooded away every year. I'm very tired of seeing Ms. Sampson and her family have to sit on the porch and we have to wait for boats to come get us. I'm very tired. I had to drag my mother and my daughter, which is handicapped, through the water in the dark. And I'm very tired of that because it's nothing to put money into the ditches and build deeper ditches so the water won't rise up as far. I'm very tired of seeing people laying on the ground now. We did not see this 23 years ago. People laying on the ground outside because they have nowhere to stay outside of their old homes because nobody is building it up. And I need to know, what is the board going to do here soon before Jesus come back to build up our community of Duffield, because we are taxpayers too. We go to work 7 days a week too. We too have RNs and doctors in our area. We too have researchers and scientists and chemists, myself, in the area, but do not want to leave our areas because that's the area that we love. And we can't afford to go out here to Carolina Pines and Taberna and buy $200,000 houses when we have put so much into our homes right there in the Duffield area. And it's some of us that actually really love the area. They taken away the gym, which has our weights and has our tracks. They're taking away everything. The garden that the veterans have built up is getting flooded away, and nobody's coming to fix that. My neighbors around us, Miss Peachy, who's going on to be with the Lord now, her houses are being damaged. At least come tear her down in the memory of her name. Tear them down and put something else there. They need homes in the Duffield area. That houses have been standing there for years, abandoned, and they are bandos. They are bandos. I lived in Atlanta for 3 years, and I'm telling you, it's worse. It looks worse than Atlanta, bandos. And I'm very ashamed of it. And I love New Bern. I love New Bern, North Carolina. But I'm very ashamed of the finances that are coming through the fingers of people who are in charge, and they are doing nothing. They totally, only thing you see is new police cars. And you see all these new machines that they're getting, but nothing still is being done. From the police area on down, around that zone, around that area, nothing is being done. Trent Court, if you're going to ban it and put the other people in there, do what you got to do, but at least build something up for us so we can live in, because there's nowhere to live because everything is so high and people cannot afford. I myself pay $9.75 a month for rent that I cannot afford, but I have to do what I have to do so me and my daughter can have a roof over our head. We don't have anywhere else to go because we cannot afford anywhere else to go. And I just feel like that needs to be the main topic of a conversation. Carolina Pines is fine. Taberna is fine. I work out there. I work for people out there. I take care of people out there every single day. But we got to sit here and we got to keep rebuilding our house. FAFSA ain't give us no money. FAFSA ain't give my mama a dime. They ain't give me a dime. That's savings. They had to build up their house again. I bought my mom her first house when I was 8 years old. Gave her my whole check that my daddy left me when he died. I don't want to see my mama lose her house again. Please do something about the flooding area. Please do something to build up our community too, because there's still people, everybody don't want to be a gangbanger, everybody don't want to be on drugs. It's some people who actually need to see something. They need to see that they are cared for. Please, and that's all I got to say, and you all have a blessed day.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is, I might talk a little hoarse because I got a cold. My name is Anthony Rayner. I have been visiting a whole lot of parks. When you go to Catfish Hunter Park in Winston, North Carolina, they got it made into like a dead end. The reason they put it into a dead end is so that they won't have no traffic for the people to drive their cars around. That road that you put in there is not needed because it ain't gonna help the traffic. If you can tell me why the road needed, I would shut my mouth up, but it's not needed. And then if you think about it, y'all had tried this one time before, a long time ago, that y'all gonna try to put one around it. It didn't work. So now what you're doing, you're riding a entrapment. What the entrapment is for? We build a baseball game there, right? 4 or 5 kids run across the road when the car comes through, and one get killed. Who's gonna take the blame? The city will? They should, because y'all asking for it. But if you put it back like it was, and don't worry about it, let it be a dead-end street like it's supposed to be, you won't have as much problem. But now you run a street right through something that where kids gonna play. Have y'all ever seen a kid get run over before? Think about it. Close your eyes a minute and think about it if it was your child that got ran over by a vehicle. If it were yours, how would you feel? So why should you put an entrapment there to start with? And then first of all, she said something about the water. When I tried to change the development, they told me I could not build a great big building up high. Everybody on 3rd Avenue should have a lawsuit in, because y'all made room for them to put that big building there. If you read, get your a decimeter or any kind that see the raising of limit of houses, you'll see 14 feet of water running back this way. That's against the law to throw water on somebody else's property. Ask me how did I know. Back in 2081, y'all wouldn't let me do it. They told me I could not throw water back on somebody else's property and cause them to have a flood. And that's one reason I sold the land that I had next door. And then y'all come back later and said, y'all let somebody else build a property on it. He told me I couldn't do it. So I think, just like he said a while ago in one of his notes, it's going to be new people, things will get changed. It's really going to get changed. But today, I think all this you got on the board, immediately, I don't mean wait till tomorrow, take that plan and throw it in the trash can immediately. Because it's a problem. And you know it's a problem. When you know it's a problem, people come. Look around you, they come. When it ain't no problem, nobody show. Then first of all, my last thought about, how many of y'all live over there? How many of y'all live in the community where you're trying to change?
I do.
You do?
We're just changing Bayberry.
You won. How many more live there? How you feel we come change your community? That's the catch of everything. How will you feel? I'm an insurance salesman, and I tell everybody I'm a damn loss. I'm a real good insurance salesman. Because when I make a sale, I put myself in their predicament to make sure I can cover them in the best interest of them if I was sitting on the other side. That's what makes you good. What makes you bad when you don't care for nobody but yourself? How many dollars can I put my friend in? Would it help me in it? And when you don't care for yourself, it's bad. Just for yourself, it's bad. Just for yourself. Because I got another problem coming up. I noticed what the city plan board did. Y'all did this. I appreciate y'all putting more lights on me, but what about the rest of the people who live on my road? Y'all approved that. Y'all got lights up around my house, but you didn't get the lights around the rest of the people's houses. That ain't fair. That's not even fair. But getting back to this here, I think this right here should be immediately destroyed.
Sir,
Thank
you're
you.
starting to repeat yourself. And for your knowledge, I have invested money in that area. If you take a look at all the signage at the beauty parlor, Morgan's Beauty, Rama, I have paid for that out of my pocket, and I gave it to that business. On top of that, I'm investing getting the cage removed for that. I'm doing that completely out of my pocket for that thing, and am very interested in improving that area. So
If you want to improve the area, won't you go and clean the pipes out so the water can run?
Sir,
But
I'm
you not,
doing-
you,
sir,
you
I'm
only,
doing
you're
what
only
I
doing
can.
stuff, hello, sir, you started
No.
me. You only doing stuff to protect your interest of your pocketbook.
Sir, that's a false statement, and that's libelous.
Why is that false?
Because I'm not doing it to increase my pocketbook. I'm taking hundreds of dollars out of my pocket and trying to help a business there of a good man.
And hope you get something in return.
I'm not hoping to get anything. It's completely gratuitous. You're false.
Okay, well, I need a couple of thousand myself. Can you help me?
Not with your attitude. You attack people wrongfully. You are talking about the thing. The redevelopment commission is who you should be speaking for. We would like to see all of that improved. It's not like this
Well,
board has
that's
magic
not an
words.
improvement. That's
Well,
not an improvement.
I
Tell me where
disagree.
you improve the community at by putting that field and bring it out further for a gym that where people come to and play. Tell me what the
how
improvement
hard.
is.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address
My name
for
is
the
Victor
record.
Taylor. I live at 2817 Walter Drive. I wasn't going to say anything, but it started getting on my heart to say something. Do you see this young lady here? Okay, that's all I need to say on that. Stanley White has made a lot of great heroes for New Bern. Sent them off, they played basketball, they played baseball, they played football, and it all came out of Mega Center, and it came out of Stanley White. These kids here, if we get rid of Stanley White, these kids are lost in the system. I did almost 20 years in the system, not on the other side. I worked for the state of North Carolina prison system. I transported inmates for almost 10 years. And a lot of our kids were on my bus. And I've had a vision a long time ago to keep our kids off my bus. The system put them in there, and then they keep them in there. But if we have nowhere to put our kids, no gym or no recreational place that they can go and learn positive stuff, they're going to be in the system. Now, you got West New Bern. In 1977, when they built both of them, they look identical. Then we, as the Board of Aldermen, approved some money for Stanley White, $1.25 million to renovate the gym, because we felt something for that gym. It did something for our community. And now someone wants to get rid of the gym because of the flooding. I don't agree with that. You found money, the city, stakeholders, private investors found money, $350,000 to fix up Kidsville. Okay? Why you can't find money to fix up Stanley White for the African American people in Duffield? As Mr. Rayner said, how many of you all live in the Duffield area? Nobody. Some of you all come from the Duffield areas, but a lot of you on the board up there don't live in the area, never lived in that area, but you're making decisions for us. We need to be at the table when decisions are made. We need to be at the table prior to the decisions are made, not after they're made, because after they're made, we're just using the bathroom in the wind. Mildly saying it. And as Mr. Randall said, I said at the last meeting, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. Why would you want to put a street down the middle of a baseball field and a recreation? Why would you want to put a street down there? Accident waiting to happen. We do not need anything going in between our kids. She takes off running at a baseball or basketball or volleyball. She ain't paying attention to no car. The speed limit is 25. How many people go with 25? Okay? The plan, I don't agree with the plan. We need to get the answer from us. All right? In a street down there, You got the organic garden down there. You got a street down there, another accident waiting to happen. I think we need to rethink this plan and come up with a better decision. We need to keep the Stanley White Recreation Center in the neighborhood. We need, where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a way, there's a will. And we need to make a way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Walter Garrison. I'm one of the Dufferfield home repairmen. And I would like to see some children at play signs in my neighborhood. I live at 1111 Raleigh Street, and I work all over Dufferfield, and I haven't seen no children at play signs. We used to have the neighborhood watch in Standard White Gym, and I don't know what happened to our watch program, but we need some children at play signs.
Thank you. I would suggest you speak to the redevelopment commission. It sounds like a positive idea.
How you doing tonight? My name is Michael Stewart. I stay in U165 Trent Court. And as far as Standard White goes, it's a pillar of the community. I grew up, we didn't have to be in the streets doing anything bad. We had vans that came by and picked us up for baseball practice, football practice. We had very good coaches like Coach Baker and Coach Pickett and Book and all them. We didn't have to be in the streets doing gang violence or doing drugs and none of that, because we had people that cared about us and cared what we did. Stanley White needs to be here, because we have children right now that are fighting, that are doing gang stuff right now, that are in the stuff that they wouldn't even be doing if they could be lifting weights or playing basketball or on a football team or on a baseball team. It's always been there, and it should always be there. And I have nothing else to say about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Terry Holloway, 1014 Main Street. I'm not an original resident of New Bern, but I spent many, many summers down here. And that gym was a big influence in my life also. My question is, and I don't want to go back over everything that's been said, right? What I want to say is this: if it's good enough to redevelop for what you guys want to do, why isn't it good enough to redevelop for some affordable housing back there and other things that the community needs? You guys haven't presented this to the community. That's why everybody's in here and upset. So I think, like my man said, I don't know your name, sir, but we need to get it into the community and get what they think, all right? I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I was watching this guy's body language, all right? I'm a bounty hunter. That's what I used to do. And I was watching his body language the whole time during this meeting, and his body language was telling me, you guys are just talking for nothing, because we're going to get what we want, you know? And we just need, everybody needs to listen to everybody. These are the people that live there. We need to listen to what's going on. Personally, I watch these kids every day in front of my store playing in the street because they can't go down the street, all right? I watch them ride their little Christmas motorcycles, right? Almost getting hit by cars. I see this every day. I have to bring them to the store. Hey, make sure you stop at the stop sign. You look before you go. There's always something. They have nowhere to go now. They're in the streets. Yesterday, it was a gang, about 80 kids came from over Trent Court over to Duffy Field side. Why? Nothing to do. So now they're starting to fight. Pretty soon, we're going to have kids laying in the street because of it. We got to have somewhere for these kids to go, all right? It's going to be dangerous if you make it. I heard that they were going to put it over there by, I can't remember the name of the church. What's the name of it? Dayspring. Said he's going to put it across Dayspring. Now you got these little kids crossing the street. Somebody's going to get killed. Personally, when the flood came, I drove around in my car trying to figure out, why did we get all this water? All right? Now, actually, it was before the storm happened. Okay, it was before the storm, because I had noticed that some of the water was building up, and I drove around. My cousin and I went to Pembroke, and I told my cousin, I said, look, man, I said, have the city to dig that ditch out in front of your house I said, because I got a feeling that if the storm comes next time, the water gonna come in your house. So just happened, he did it. I think he lived at 1904 E.F. Tompkins. So they dug the ditch out in front of his house. When the flood came, do you know the water barely touched his house? If that ditch hadn't been dug out, his house, he probably would have lost his house. All right? Now, I noticed all around the whole city, I went to everywhere I could go, right? Most of the ditches were not taken care of. All right? Now, just a few days ago, I just found out that the pump station that you guys got, right? I found out that the pumps didn't even work and nobody fixed it. Now, how true this information is, I don't know, but it pissed me off because that could have caused why everybody over here's house is now demolished. They don't have nowhere to stay. They stay in with friends, family, wherever they can stay, hotels, everywhere, shelters, wherever, you know. So I think that we need to rethink this whole thing, right? Started from the beginning and start listening to the people that live there. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jamar Wallace, 1601, Apartment B, Hazel Avenue, Chairman of the Greater Duffield Residents Council. Bring you greetings from the Greater Duffield community once again. Here we go again. How many times do these people have to take the time out of their busy schedules to come down here and say, stop the process? This is not rocket science. And this is not aimed at any particular board or any particular anybody. This is for the good of our community. I, for one, am sick of putting out call-em-alls and everybody calling people down here to say the same thing over and over again. Stop it, guys. Stop it. What is this baseball field going to do to improve the quality of life for residents? What is it going to do to pump the water out? All these things that these people have said that we continue to say. We can't say it no more definitively. And we have the attorney saying about what your role is or whatever the case may be. It may be procedurally, but you know the difference between right and wrong. If the residents aren't for it, stop it at whatever point it's at. Whether it's planning and zoning, Board of Aldermen, redevelopment, should have been stopped back then until these people are satisfied with the plan. And obviously they're not. So when are we going to listen? I think the time is now. Just stop this thing, stop this plan, and get it approved through the neighborhood by the people who live there. Once again, as I've said thousands and thousands of times, and all these people have said, we're sick and tired of you keep going. We keep saying no, and you keep saying yes. We're going to do it anyway. Well, it's not your neighborhood. And somebody should start to act like it. Do what these people are asking you to do. Thank you. Have a good night.
My name is Clarence Monroe. Everybody call me Money. I'm from Duffield and 5 Points. I own the house at 1104 Cedar Street, which is right beside Memorial Baptist Church. Every day, the young man over there, his family, his daughter, I think you have 2 sons. I watch them. No parents is behind them, monitoring them across the street. The mothers on the side make sure they cross the street and stay on that side to get to the gym. I don't think the gym is like a babysitter for our community, but those kids it's like their parents is a safe haven for them. And you know that this is to be a landowner. They use my property to cut short path to get to the gym. And you know, I mean, I see this, you know, and I look at his daughter. I look at her stamina. I've been watching her ever since she's been a little girl. She looked like she might go to UNC on a scholarship. But if you don't, you know, catch them, because sometimes you leave school, you got to come home, you get sidetracked. That girl leaves from school, come home, and she go to the gym. So it's, you know, I'm just saying, it's needed. It's appreciated. And I think, you know, we can kind of look back on Walt Bellamy. We can look back on Willie Perry. Some of the guys that left, like you said, Omega Center, which was staying the gym, and they went on and get fame. But it didn't stop with them. You know, we got the vision forward right here. This little girl is saying, you know what I'm saying? We shouldn't deprive them. It's all right. We already been there. We done that. You know what I'm saying? But to see that 3 kids, I mean, it's more than them. But I just know that them mostly because there's 3 brothers and sisters that walks to that gym daily. So thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Elijah Brown, 916 Fort Totten Drive. My plan was not to come up here, but I came up here to let you know one thing. Well, a few things. These group of people out here are not here to attack you, to make you mad or whatever, but you know what, Mr. Rayner, I'm glad he did what he did. The simple reason is, when you start going back and forth with him, wait, let me finish now. See, that's you the chairperson.
Sir,
you don't know where I'm going, so please don't stop me. Please listen.
The only thing important to me is my integrity.
Okay, but let me stop you right there.
And I was being attacked.
Okay, you the chair, so I expect you to act better than I do.
I am acting better.
You got to govern this, but you stop me before I can say what I said. You can't outthink me. My thing is this, the point I was going to make, not to shame you, not to bash you, but the same thing you just felt just for a little second, a few minutes, these people have been feeling all their lives. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. When you look at the whole city of New Bern, I've been to just about every one of the parks in New Bern. Not one park I've seen a highway or road go through. Not one. So, what we're saying is this. I heard it just a few minutes ago. We've been allowed to speak. Okay? This is not on you. We've been to the recommission meetings so many times. But what I'm saying is, when we speak, we are able to speak, we're allowed to speak, but we're not heard. From the chair of the commission, they told me that, well, this is only a suggestion. I say, well, then take that suggestion away. If it's just a suggestion, why would you present it to your board when the community said they don't want it? And then when you're endangering children, I grew up in that area all my life. Now I live behind, my property is adjacent behind Henderson Park. The creek runs between it. Stanley White, and I'm giving this sit down, Stanley White, listen, Stanley White is not just a gym for activity. I've seen myself personally, lives saved. People from committing suicide, young kids, grown kids. I've been to court with people. All I said, I play ball. I played ball with Bernard, George, and others. Mike. I played with Victor Taylor. I played with all of them. But I kept playing. I kept playing. You know why? Even to the point my health wasn't good enough after a 35-foot fall to go out there with those kids. I said, look, I'm giving this down. I said, look, if I come out here and play with you, and I could beat you, I'm going to court with you. He said, man, you going to do that? I said, yeah, I'll go to court with you, man, but you need to take care of your business. This guy was running, going through Browns, cutting himself up. Guess what? He's doing better now. He got his son back, driving a car or truck better than I am. But all we asking you all to do, when you make a decision, think of the public. Because when you talking about putting a road through a recreation center or a park, and you have already a road established probably 2,000 or 3,000 feet, about a city block,
It's already there. So why are you going to create another road to disrupt and maybe lose a child or two, or probably more? I got a little 3-year-old granddaughter. We teach her well. She's very smart, but guess what? She's a child. And when she see an object that she wants, she's going to go at it. All I'm saying is when you think of what the commission wants, think of the public, and I appreciate the time that you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Barbara Sampson. I reside at R149 Craven Terrace. And I believe I speak for everybody in here when I say that Standing White is like a homestead to us. It's a place that most of all of us grew up in. Our family grew up, my children grew up, my grandchildren. And I hate to see anybody try to take that away from us. That's all we have in New Bern. We have nothing else but Standing White. And you know that you can't put a road through there. Because how will it look out there playing baseball? Where you gonna put the bleachers at? On the highway, on the road? And we don't want you to saying, when you start saying acquisition, we already know what that means. Buying up the houses, never replacing the houses, putting something in that we don't care too much about. All we want you guys to do is listen to what we want. We're not asking for much. If you get the highway, if you get the road, you're still going to have to build it up. Either way you go. So why not take the time out to go ahead and build Standing White up? And the Redevelopment Commission do better, try to find better drainage solutions for us. Then we won't have to worry about it keep flooding every here and there and everywhere, all on Cedar Street and everywhere else, because you got a place that everything go down on. Find a better drainage system. And then come back to the board and talk to us and see what we think, see what we want. I think we got enough sense to know what we want. At least I feel like it. So, thank you guys.
Thank you. Do any other members of the public? Thank you.
My name is Antoinette Bosky. I live at 1 Eastern Shores Townhouses, and I was not going to say a word, but I am going to say this. Initially, at the first planning and zoning meeting, I got up here and I said it's all about social cohesion and all about including the community in what is happening in this process. I also mentioned that Redevelopment Commission wanted to work with the community wanted to work with Redevelopment Commission. When we left that day and went to the next Redevelopment Commission meeting, Commissioner Bullock Mosley brought up that we needed to talk about public comment on what happened, right? And during that time, she came up with this wonderful idea on how we could find a compromise to what's happening right now. At the end of the day, the community likes your plan overall. They like every piece of the plan overall, but what they do not like and do not support is the 3rd Avenue extension, which, valid in their feelings, whether we agree with it or not, is affecting something that they feel is a landmark, a historical piece of their community that is important to them. So I say that to say, at the last Redevelopment Commission meeting, the chair, Ms. Teresa Lee, did a wonderful activity that I felt brought everybody a little closer together. They were in differing positions, but she did something that made us find out where do we have common ground. And where we found we had common ground was everybody agreed that the plan was about an 8. It was a good plan, but they didn't like that street. So, if we're talking about including the community, if we're talking about community buy-in, if we're talking about creating social cohesion, creating trust, creating an environment where a community is invested in a plan where they will show up, show out, and help you put that plan in place, then my recommendation would be to ask about Ms. Commissioner Bullock Mosley's proposition about extending into Queen Street and making Broad Street as well as that side of Duffy Field, the economic development area. It's something the community supported, and when it was brought up again, the community gave it a standing ovation. If you really want to build trust and you really care about a community, include these individuals. It's not about you, me, or anybody else. It's about the people who have to live there. And how can we make that happen together and work together to improve the community while considering what their desires are.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Would you please come to the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'm 72 years old. I'm a product of Sandy White, and when I was coming up with young boy, we didn't have nowhere to go. Park was, well, we didn't have a topic.
I can hear you now if you want to stop there. Okay.
We can hear him.
We're fine.
We're fine. We can hear you there.
Anyway, I actually stepped aside Sandy White, sitting in the case Sandy White for his work, at least she stated his name. My mother was 97 years old. We purchased a piece of land in Duffield from 60 years ago, and we took care of a piece of property next door to us, and my mother wanted to buy this property. And I received a phone call from my mother saying that she could not buy the property and that she was building a house on it. What happened to the grandfather clause? I talked to a city guy the other day by the name of Jeff, and he was telling me about the program. It's a nice program. But I think it needs to be fair to the people that was there from the beginning. Duffield do need improvement, but Duffield needs some money. I'm a contractor. People can't get the houses built. But they didn't just have it. This is worse than the neighborhood in town. So we're going to pray that you do what's right. It's not hard to do what's right. It takes you less time to do what's right than to do what's wrong. We can't keep talking about the statutes and the law and all of this. Do what's right. Ain't nobody kept it the land. But do what's right. Help Sandy White keep his name. I mean, I hear what these kids saying. I won a Northern championship, football championship, high school. Coming up with a little boy, playing almost college football behind Sandy White. And these kids need somewhere to go. I run a drug program in New Bern. And most of the people that come to the program are like you. We don't have a whole lot of people like us in the neighborhood. And we're trying to help you. The church says so, we say lie. And I'm glad today that I'm happy. I'm going back into the community. I'm the oldest age member in New Bern, 55 years. And I didn't have to come back when I went back. It helped somebody. And the city didn't help us. We're not going nowhere. Thank you for listening.
I want to thank you, and I want to thank you your service to your community.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carol Vivian Bonner Beckton. I reside at 3005 Peppercorn Road, New Bern, North Carolina. You've heard all the reasons, very, very valid one. I only ask that you remember that in your redevelopment planning, Duffield has a very rich history that should be acknowledged, recognized, and preserved in whatever redevelopment you have in mind. It should not be ignored. Our voices should be heard. This, what we're experiencing now, is a part of history that we did not make. It's the repercussions of Jim Crow and many other things. So please, as you go on with redevelopment, The name Stanley White alone says volumes in our community. He himself left a legacy that touched the lives of many, among others. So as you go on with redevelopment, please include the rich history and the legacy of the African Americans, the Negroes, in the Duffield area of New Bern, North Carolina. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to remind you that part of the redevelopment plan includes historical markers and trails. And you are right, Duffield does have a rich history, and we are trying to, I should say the Redevelopment Commission has included that as a major part of their plan. Thank you.
But yes, please, in whatever you do, it still needs to be acknowledged more. As you call people to the table in that plan who have not only a passion, but lived it. Miss Mary Smith, Mrs. Sampson, myself. I was born at 841 Bloomfield Street. I lived on Fowler's Lane in a duplex that's still standing. We lived at E2 258 Craven Terrace. My grandmother's house is still standing at 723 Miller Street. I've lived at Fairfield Harbor, and I still reside in New Bern. So it has a rich history.
Thank you,
I'm
I agree.
very much aware of it, and just want to make sure that that rich history is
It's preserved
acknowledged,
and preserved.
recognized, and preserved.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to make public comments against adopting this plan? Having heard none, it returns to the board. Thank you. Mr. Attorney, Mr. Davis, my understanding is that the plan doesn't incorporate anything about this raising Stanley White. We are letting Stanley White stand until decisions are made about it. Nobody in the city closed it purposely. It was closed because of the Florence flood.
Yes, sir.
That was by act of God. And if somebody could snap their fingers and make everything fine, that would have been done a long time ago. Would you agree with that, Mr. Ruggieri?
Absolutely.
We did not destroy Stanley White. What we are operating on, we're operating on the statute, whether or not to approve the plan, and we have 45 days to do that. And that's what's before us. At this point, I would like to return the issue before us to members of the board here to discuss. And I encourage all the members here to ask questions that they feel appropriate to either the town attorney or the head of development services, Jeff Ruggieri. Thank you.
I have a question. If this road is put through and it does divide the fields, will there be any fencing to stop children from transferring from one side of the road to the next?
It absolutely could be, yeah, I mean.
Could add it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not out of the, sure.
And just to put a finer point, the Redevelopment Commission can make minor changes in their own discretion without Board of Alderman approval. They just can't make substantial changes to the plan. So that would be a good example of a very minor change that the Redevelopment Commission could make unilaterally to improve safety.
I'd like a point of clarification, please. I believe when the Duffield community refers to Stanley White, they are not only talking about the physical building of Stanley White, but also Henderson Park. Is that correct? Correct. Thank you. So when you hear Stanley White, it's not just the building, it's the whole area they are referring to. But that area, instead of being called Henderson Park to them, is Stanley White.
It's all one and the same.
Yes.
As far as they're concerned.
I'd like to make a statement, guys. I know just about everyone who stepped up to that podium, and the passion that you show, I have compassion for it. But we are giving a major task here to redevelop, develop, and redefine a whole lot of things. So it's going to take all of us being respectful to each other, compassionate with each other, and it's not going to be a simple task. So everybody, when we start taking these tasks on, temper yourself. Manage the tone of your tongue. Your passion is very well felt by me, and it will be very well respected by me. And I, in the little influence that I can have, am going to make sure that these members recognize and respect that. But it's going to be a major challenge. We know that Mother Nature has done some things greater than New Bern could prepare for. And it's going to take some great efforts of each and all of us to make sure that we build something in the future that the scientists are saying is becoming even greater to us. So it will not be forgotten, the struggles that your families have been going through the past several years. It will not be forgotten. But we got to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. I know Ms. Lee has been having all kinds of meetings with trying to get us there. So everybody, let's continue to love ourselves, love your communities. We respect them children. I do. I love all children. So whatever we're going to do here, we have to make it comprehensive enough that all things are taken care of. It is a major task to do what you expect of us and what we want to do for our community and our communities at large. So everybody, let's continue to love, be patient, compassionate with whatever it is we choose to do. I'll end this with that for my personal statement on where we are today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Let me just make a comment. First, I would like to acknowledge and recognize Mr. Bernard George and I'm actually call him Mr. Tripp. They gave us a tour, and they did such a wonderful job. And we saw all the devastation, and we also didn't think there's a need for a road. And I think it's unfair to the community for the redevelopment commissioner dictate the needs and wants in the community when they don't live there. My recommendation that the redevelopment commissioner meet with the community to find out the needs and wants. Come to the table with them. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, Marshall. Any other comments? Marcus, do you have any comments?
I pretty much grew up in Dufferfield. I grew up at 1209 Main Street. The area, like the community said, the area is pretty much historical. I grew up in Stanley White. It saved me from the streets, you know. I grew up to get my college degree from East Carolina. Played football at East Carolina. Had a great career, and I can really say that was probably because of Stanley White. You know, I could have easily been a game banger, and but the community. I'm not for sure. This is only my third meeting, so I'm really not for sure what the point of the road is for to go through the community. Can somebody really pretty much clarify that for me?
That's a good point, Marcus, because I felt the same way that you did. And I spoke with Jeff this morning, and he explained it. And if he would do it again to the rest of the committee, he kind of made it clearer why they needed to do that. And what I did, then you can drive from his office, you go straight up First, right into Third, and it becomes, you'll hear why it becomes
Yeah, so the idea behind the street is essentially the foundation of the economic development plan for the redevelopment plan itself. It seeks, the idea is to extend that Third Avenue extension will feed off of, essentially have a straight shot from 70, was future interstate, was it 42? 42, and have a straight shot from that interstate right up First Avenue, which is all improved, brand new Third Avenue that we just did in 2012, and then have it come right up into Main Street. So you're having a straight shot for economic development. So you're getting cars directly from a major thoroughfare, an interstate, straight into the heart of the community to Main Street. Part of the plan also, one way is Main Street, and in order to provide parking on the street, to provide the parking needed to support commercial and retail and economic development along Main Street. So it's essentially, that extension is the economic development tool. It provides the foundation, it provides the cars and the feet and the people. It gives them it gives people an easier, faster, safer, more aesthetically pleasing way to get into Duffy Field, into the Main Street, to allow those businesses that is already zoned commercial to actually have some more vehicular traffic to get people inside there, so then we can start to have enough demand. We can have, once you have traffic counts, that's when economic development starts to happen, right? So the idea there is to bring that traffic a straight shot. It's actually, it really is when you think about it and you actually get off of 70 and you just take that straight shot and you get right to First Avenue and Broad Street and you see what the city has done there and beautified that, and you think of that as the gateway now into the greater Duffy neighborhood that goes straight up into the intersection of Main Street. The plan itself ponders some more retail, commercial, residential, multifamily residential right at that intersection of Main and Third, and then from there, then providing the allowing more commercial services, restaurants, bars, clubs, retail establishments to actually thrive in the community and not be, I guess, waiting for Broad Street to develop, which is what we've been waiting for since I've been here. So
It's my understanding that Main Street is going to be mixed uses. It's going to be both residential and commercial.
Yeah, absolutely can do that, yes, sure. So it's to provide the opportunity. Right now, it's very constricted for economic development. It's not happening. It won't happen. One of two things has to happen. Either the transportation network has to support the vehicular traffic necessary to support commercial development, or you need to get enough critical mass of rooftops in the area to support economic development. We have a chicken and an egg. Unfortunately, in Duffy Field at this point, we have neither. We don't have a chicken or an egg. So the idea behind that extension is the economic development plan, to provide that foundation, to provide the support, to provide the people and the cars and the exposure for the community, so then entrepreneurs can start to set up shop. And of course, in right next to my office on First Street, we have the Volt Center, we have the Workforce Training Center. Part of that is a business incubator. The small business center is being relocated there. There's a commercial kitchen incubator, kitchen training facility that's we're in the process of establishing there. So the idea, from a holistic standpoint for the whole community, is to provide an area where people can get job training, job skills, provide the entrepreneurial training that they need, and then, being in the community, have a place for them to go and invest and be part of the solution for the economic, for the economic development of the community. So it's interconnected. There's a lot to it. You have to start somewhere, and I know it doesn't seem like much, and it's very intrusive. Understand that, but in order to bring life, non-residential life, into the community, you got to do it with your transportation network. That's how you do it. If your plan is to use the existing transportation network, it's not working now. And if we're not doing anything to change that, it won't change in the future. That's the rationale.
So if you accept that for a second, All right, just for a second. Then you have to do something with the Duffy Field area to make it viable for the community, and I think that sketch makes it viable.
Well, I think the big part of this is when you listen to, when I went to the meeting before the redevelopment, and they were asked to rate it between 1 and 10, and it was 8 to 8.5. Nothing is ever perfect. I'm a resident of New Bern, lived here my whole life. I've seen stuff come in neighborhoods, you go, oh my God. But then years later, you realize it really was for something you did not have the knowledge or the wherewithal to see down the road. It's always, growth is painful.
As many of you know, I wrote a letter to all the boards, and urban replanning has been done many, many times in the past. When you think about how upset the Parisians were in the 1850s when their businesses and homes were being taken away, when Mr. Haussmann was ordered by the Emperor of France to redevelop Paris, and that's happened. And cities do not do well if they don't have transportation. New York City went through a terrible time, and they solved with development. The streets were congested and whatnot. In the 1880s, they built an elevated highway to get people around. Then they came up with the subway system because and transportation is the key for the success of any urban area.
Sure.
I do have some concerns about the plan. It does not comprehensively address and remedy key issues that will affect the redevelopment of Duffy Field, such as rainwater and flood mitigation, relocation of residents during redevelopment, creation of affordable housing, and method for residents and low-income landlords to bring their homes up to code. If we don't address them now, we are being very remiss.
But this is a living, breathing thing. It can change. It will change.
It will change. I agree with you. But you need to have a foundation, and the foundation is not there in those areas.
People are living there now. There is a lot of suffering because of the way the community has deteriorated. Many people have abandoned Duffy Field. If we do not do anything now, it's just going to continue as the can is going to be kicked down the street. Teresa Lee gave us a very graphic demonstration of how many plans there were, dating back to 1964. Now, I know you're too young to remember that, but the time to act is now. Otherwise, the decay is just going to continue and it's going to get worse.
Well, but you can vote this to move forward with proposals of some changes.
We have to adopt Mr. Thomas, before us right now, we have to introduce the changes specifically, like we have the baseball field.
With tonight's motion, yes, sir.
Yes. Now, in the future, the redevelopment zone, if they have some ideas and whatnot, they can introduce them, and certainly small changes, as you say. When it comes to the nitty-gritty of where to build houses and whatnot, that's before the redevelopment commission. That's not really part of our purview.
No, sir.
No.
So you're in agreement with that?
This will be your one and only experience with this plan. You've got 45 days to look at the plan, make sure it's consistent with the city comprehensive land use plans. That's your little sliver of a role in this process.
But in addition to, later on down years, if there is a developer who wants to rezone a parcel from...
Yes, sir.
That would come before us.
Fair point. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Just to get something clear, did I just now hear that the flood issue, how we gonna move water, is not part of this existing present plan?
I'll answer that. I appreciate that. I mean, it is in the plan, okay? It's goal 3. It's on page 20, right? And as Ms. Shout said, you need to start with something. And it is about, and it does direct the commission to study, commission a engineering study to determine what kind of flood mitigation measures can work in Duffield. As serendipitously, we've already handled about a third of that through another recommendation from the Redevelopment Commission that came early on in the process, where we have a bunch of FEMA-owned lots that are sitting in the northeast corner of the community against the railroad tracks, and that those lots, they were purchased, they were FEMA buyout lots, there were homes on them, they were subject to repetitive loss and periodic flooding, so FEMA purchased those properties. Part of that purchase agreement was there was covenants placed on those properties that said they can't be built on anymore. So they've sat there, and they've been a maintenance liability to the city, because the city is responsible for them. So part of the recommendation that we're now in the process of seeking funding for was we commissioned a engineering firm to study what would happen if the city dug out those lots to create retention pond. It came from a recommendation from one of our Redevelopment Commission members, Mr. Kip Paraguay. Is he still here?
Yes.
Did he sneak out? Okay. A developer who understands development. And the notion there was, well, if like we saw with the subdivision tonight, there's stormwater retention in the property. His question to us was, well, what if we looked at Duffield and applied modern, contemporary stormwater management requirements to it, and what would that look like? Could we design Duffield to be exactly like a new subdivision that came in today? And the answer was, well, let's see what happens if we dig out those FEMA lots and turn those into essentially retention ponds and a community amenity in a park. And we posed that question to an engineering firm, and they came back with the answer, yes, you can do that. And it captures about a third of the community, and it handles 4 to 6 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. Not only does it retain that water and keep it from spreading out the community, it also treats that water. Where now it's just running off and it's loaded in pollutants. It treats about 50% pollutant loads. You have cleaner water that's out of the community. So we have about a third of that solved in the study, and we're seeking funding for it. And there's many funding streams that we can see for a project like that. And I have a phone call tomorrow. I've had phone calls with other funding sources throughout weeks. I'm very confident that we'll be able to do that. That's a third. That leaves the rest of the community, and part of that is goal 3, and figuring out and hiring an engineering firm to look at what are those solutions. We've done it in the past. It's not as simple as digging out ditches. If it was, it would be, you understand how that works. The water table is literally 2 feet under the ground. If you're digging and you hit water, you have now essentially stopped any kind of flood remediation. It's just going to be this. So you need to, instead of going deeper, you need to go wider. So we'll be looking at that and seeing how that, and cleaning out ditches is part of the solution. And the city's working with FEMA on a large scale to get the funding to do that throughout the entire city. But in the meantime, goal 3 does handle exactly what Michelle was talking about. And secondly, there was a comment that people are going to be there was no plan for displaced people. It's on the last page. It's on page 32. It's actually a requirement of the statute of creating a redevelopment plan that you have a statement of feasibility, a feasible method for relocation of displaced. There is a process that we go through at the federal level when we're using HUD funds and CDBG funds in order to do things like this. We're going to follow that same process if anybody happens to be displaced throughout this process. So either we'll, and it's up to them at the end of the day. Having done this a couple times, they can take vouchers and go wherever they need to go. We can build new homes for people and put them in those. But at the end of the day, nobody will be displaced, and it's a federal law, and it's part of the state statute that it happens. So to say that we're going to be kicking people out of the community is incorrect. It cannot happen.
I never said that.
I didn't say. I'm saying you said. I'm being clear, and I'm being clear in what this says.
Yeah, I have a twofold question here. Who has the 45 days to come up with the plan? The community?
That's a state statute. That is in the regulation that determines once.
Yeah, I want to be clear, because your question was a bit confused in that the redevelopment commission is responsible for preparing the plan. They have no time constraints. They've been at that for how long? A year and a half. So at the end of that year and a half, the plan is the one before this board tonight, and this board's job is to make sure that the plan doesn't violate any existing city land use plans. And this board has 45 days to make that determination. And the clock started running back in early December.
And when did the 45 days start?
Yes, sir. At your
December 14th
yeah.
When did it start?
December 3rd.
December?
Yes, sir.
But previous to that, we did vote on a boundary line, correct?
Yes,
Months
sir.
and months ago,
Yes.
actually in the spring.
Different issue, but yes, sir. Exactly.
Once you all voted for the boundary, that allowed the development commission to create the plan. Couldn't create the plan without the boundary. Right. The planning commission created the boundary.
Yes, Harry.
So, based on what I'm hearing now, the flood mitigation is part of the plan, but it leaves us with the road being the most contentious part at this time, right? Or am I wrong?
I believe you're right, Aaron.
That's what I hear.
So,
And they also mentioned Stanley White, and there's no part of the plan that's asking to raise it right now. There is a problem of getting it restored.
now, if they get the water matter taken care of, that should pull water away from the Stanley White Center. We're not talking about the playing area, just the center itself, right?
I believe it incorporates the whole bounded area region.
So, the extended baseball field should not necessarily, but it ain't but so much we can prepare against and for Mother Nature. So, we're saying that putting that road in that area with the type of land development that we're talking about, the runoff, the drainage, that matter will protect and save Henderson Park. That is what I'm hearing at this moment. Now, that still doesn't take care of the issue where they're saying you're splitting. This happened to James City when they did Highway 70.
Yes, but James City was a much bigger scale.
I understand, but I'm just talking about the community being divided.
Yeah.
But that's the part I'm talking about, is splitting up the neighborhood as the residents know it.
But
So,
at
is there another-
James City, though, residents were actually impacted. It cut through a historic area.
Lots of
and it divided several, divided families and people from the.
That's what I'm speaking
Whereas
of. But
this
is
not
not a family, but
this is
that
a green
playground
space.
is part of the spirit of the family.
Right, but it's
That's
green
what I'm talking
space,
about.
though.
Yeah. So it's almost at the point somebody's gonna have to give up something to get something more and better, right? So how do we appease the families affected in that immediate area that we're talking about, and at the same time get the city in its proper place with the community? That road is the contention, right?
Well, the safety is what it is.
Yes, safety,
And you
the
hear
road.
it over and over, is the safety of our children,
Yes.
the safety of our children, 100%.
Right.
So what I've heard over and over is the public wants us to listen. Let's define what the word listen means. Listen is to pay attention,
Right.
to stop and look. Does it mean to do what is being said?
Right.
To listen, to take into consideration, to be thoughtful, all of those things. 100%. I believe this whole board has been that way. I know I have. I listened. I feel, as you say, the compassion here. So safety is a number one factor.
Right.
If the community continues to work with this living document as it grows and changes over the years, to have the small changes, adding tall fences to protect the children from running out after a ball or whatever it is that a parent can't grab their child fast enough. Something to stop that child. To me, that safety issue is in
Mitigated,
care of.
yeah.
Yes.
Nothing's going to be perfect.
No.
I wish it would.
Yeah, my favorite thing to say is the only perfection is imperfection. So we can take the best of what we're speaking and apply in that neighborhood, and we can meet 90+% of what they're asking. And there's going to be some give and take on their part, as well as what we come up with here, and whatever the commission comes up with to put before that final thing with the aldermen. So once again, I'll go back to saying, let us all be patient with our passion, but yet show compassion for what we have to do as a board from them and them toward us. Because my first interest is to love them. I love being here in New Bern. I'm gonna just tell you that I love it here. And I don't want any people, I don't care if it's Taberna or Duffy Field. I don't care which one it is. Let's bring the love first. Know that we're gonna have to give up something to get something better. And that's on both ends. So let's everybody, family out there, show your love and you're gonna get it back.
Thank you, Heron.
I think it's time to make a motion. I'm going to
Yes.
move that we suggest to the board that they accept this with some caveats. I would like to see that drawing included in the commission's report.
Okay.
And I would like some wording in there saying that new ball field will be graded, engineered and graded to be sure that runoff will be taken care of to whatever the industry standards are.
And would you also want to include fencing to protect the children with bypass?
Well, we can say that. I'm guessing that's gonna happen. I mean, the city's gonna wanna do that. I know you can't put fences around BMPs, for example, but you can put fences around ball fields. They kind of go with the ball field, I think. So we can add it to the proposal, and we'll see what happens. But
Okay, so what we have before us is a motion to adopt and approve the redevelopment commission plan with including the plans for the proposed baseball field. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
well, but I want to also include that they
With the grading, you want?
that's engineered so that
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the redevelopment plan with the amendment of the baseball field that is engineered for drainage, graded,
industry standard drainage.
yeah, for the drainage.
Mr. Chairman,
We can exceed the industry
should we take
standard.
a
can't we?
vote?
It's a motion.
We can vote whether we approve or disapprove?
That's what we're doing right now. We have a motion, and when a motion is seconded, then we vote.
I'd like to make an amendment to that motion,
Sure, go
please. I'd like to add that we form an advisory committee consisting of 6 to 9 residents of Duffy Field that will be the liaison between the Redevelopment Commission and Duffy Field residents, and will help in the fact gathering and decision-making process going forward. I would also like to see Main Street remain mostly residential as it is now and not be made one way. Queen Street and Broad Street between First and Bern be redeveloped as a business retail area, serving both the Duffy Field and Walt Bellamy neighborhoods.
I disagree with that second part because it's outside the region of the redevelopment zone.
It's all
Well, just take it slow. There was a lot in there, Michelle.
Does Scott Thomas have any?
Procedurally, it's Davis. Procedurally, we can't interject an amendment to a motion without an acceptance from the moving party. So we have a motion on the floor. If it doesn't get a second, it dies, and then Michelle, you can make your motion directly.
Okay.
So we had a motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman, as I understood it.
Yeah.
Can I hear that? Can I hear that motion?
Mine?
Yeah. Wait.
The first motion.
Yeah.
So we recommend to the board, to the Board of Aldermen, that they accept the commission's report with the caveat that that drawing is included in the report, and that the baseball field, the drawing in the baseball field is properly engineered for drainage.
Okay, that's simple enough. So again, we have a motion before us, as Sonny stated. Do we have a second for that?
I second.
Okay. We have a motion, and it's been seconded.
Okay, now it's proper for me to make my amendment.
Now you have a discussion.
Okay, and then I have to make my amendment.
No, ma'am. A vote gets taken on this motion, and if the motion fails, then you can make another
So
motion.
you cannot make amendments to.
The moving party can amend their motion, but someone else can't amend a primary motion.
Okay.
Otherwise, it never ends.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion. It has been seconded. All those in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, discussion.
Any discussion about the motion?
Okay, any more discussion about the motion put forward to us by our member Sonny, which would incorporate the redevelopment commission plan with the addenda of this baseball field with proper grading? Any discussions on this, please? Having heard no discussion, we will put the motion to a vote. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll. Okay.
Travis Oakley,
Welcome to
Nay.
Marcus Simmons,
Nay.
Marshall Ballard,
No.
Pat Darcy,
Yes.
Don Black,
Yes.
Ann Shout,
No.
Raymond Lason,
No.
Karen Basie,
Yes.
Sonny Aluzo,
Yes.
Margie Dunn.
Yes.
Didn't pass.
It's 5-5, doesn't pass. All right, 1, 2,
Then you can make a
3.
motion.
Yeah. 4, 5. Yeah.
I would now like to make a motion that we reject the plan submitted by the redevelopment commission.
That's all you can do.
We have a motion made to reject the plan. Is there a second?
So,
We have a motion and it's seconded. Would you like to proceed with the roll call again?
Yes.
We will have a vote by roll call. Thank you.
Travis Oakley,
Yes.
Marcus Simmons,
yes.
Marshall Ballard,
I didn't understand that motion. Repeat that again.
To reject or to adopt the plan?
To reject. The motion is to deny the plan.
So you're voting nay. Oh, you're voting
Yes.
affirmative
Correct.
to reject the plan.
Yes.
Pat Darcy,
No.
Don Black,
No.
Ann Shout,
Yes.
Raymond Lason,
No.
Karen Basie,
No.
Sonny Aluzo,
No.
Margie Dunn.
No.
That passes.
So we're going to have a plan.
So we're going to have
So, Mr. Chairman, in the spirit of being helpful yet again, it appears that a majority wants to have a plan, wants to approve a plan of some kind. We have one flavor that's been rejected, so you might suggest for those voting against the plan, if there is some version of the plan that they would find acceptable, and they could make a motion in that regard.
So you're basically asking us for certain amendments to put into it, or to have certain things rewritten onto it.
Well, that may resolve, that may get everyone on board, and that's where a discussion could be helpful. But we know that the proposal with that ball field did not pass. I don't know if a proposal without that ball field passes. I don't know what amendment might get it passed. But based on the last vote, it seems to me that a majority does not want to reject the plan.
So Raymond,
So if I may speak up.
Please.
and I've tried to be quiet and listen to what everybody's saying. So I feel like we are not, as the Planning and Zoning Board, adhering to what we are supposed to do with the redevelopment plan. And as Scott has explained it to us, our task with this redevelopment plan that's been submitted to us is to review it and make sure that we feel that it is congruent with the zoning ordinance and the things that are within our purview, primarily the zoning ordinance, land use ordinance. So I've gone through this, and I see no reason, in my opinion, not to recommend approval just as it is. That doesn't mean everything in here is perfect. That doesn't mean everything in here is going to be implemented exactly how it's in here. As has been said multiple times, this is a living document. This is a long time to be implemented, and it's going to change as it moves forward. And the Redevelopment Commission, that's their job. You know, and it is not our job to micromanage the Redevelopment Commission. That's the Board of Aldermen's job. Our job is to make sure that what is in this redevelopment plan is in agreement with the ordinance. I haven't seen anything in here with that is in disagreement with the Code of Ordinances or the Land Use Ordinance. And so if I were to make a motion, and I may here in just a moment after we have a little more discussion, it would be to recommend approval of the redevelopment plan as it has been presented to us without any amendments. And then allow the process that the state legislature has laid out, allow that process to take place, and allow the redevelopment commission to do their job in conjunction with the Board of Aldermen. And we will have done our job by looking at this plan and saying it's in agreement with
Let me ask Mr. Thomas a question. Mr. David.
Yes, sir.
As I'm getting older, I get worse with
That's
names.
okay. There's 3 of us in town, so it's confusing.
Okay, Mr. Davis, this is the opportunity for the Planning and Zoning Board, according to the statute, for us to make recommended changes to the plan.
Yes, sir.
And is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And
One and only time.
So the members of this board who like the idea of the baseball field as an additional amenity, and there's going to be other amenities coming as you described, the drainage pond that's going to be a potential park. But this is the only opportunity for now, for us, at any time, to make such change.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean, just so we're all clear again, doesn't mean the Board of Aldermen will accept your modification.
That's correct.
It just means you're proposing it to the Board of Aldermen.
Nor does it mean, if I may, that the ball field's going to wind up right there where it is on that drawing. You know, so I think it's important for all of us to realize that.
Exactly.
This is a plan, and so, you know, just because, I'm in the design world. So just because I draw something on a piece of paper doesn't mean that's how it's going to be built.
Well, let me ask you this. If you introduce your motion to adopt the plan as written, would you support that?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? Certainly.
So whatever we recommend, whatever we come up with right today, the redevelopment commission still has to step back out to the community, right? And feel the people, right? No.
There will, Heron, just so we're clear again, there will be a public hearing
Yes.
before the Board of Aldermen where all of these political ideas and feelings can be shared. But this is more of a technical review of the plan. The politics, dreams, and desires will be the last step.
Now, as a practical matter, though, the redevelopment commission is staying, and they will be working with the community to micromanage the plan as time goes on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. That's their job.
And their job would be just
That's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
They-
The redevelopment commission is going to be always there for some time in the future,
Yeah.
micromanaging different parcels of land and
Keep
whatnot.
asking.
Yeah, let's say that again, just so we're clear, that the end game isn't for the Board of Aldermen to approve a plan, and the Board of Aldermen sends staff out to implement the plan. That's not at all what happens. The board created a redevelopment commission, a body politic just like this board, who meets monthly, whose job it will be to take that plan and do their best to implement it where feasible, when feasible, given the resources. And those are all public meetings. It's a public body. Citizens have access to those board members like they have access to you. They have a right to attend those meetings, and that committee will be reaching out and involved with the community. That's their sole purpose.
I'd like to point one thing out. There's a huge difference between a goal and a plan. The redevelopment commission plan has goals. It does not have plans.
Well, that's the living part of this.
It
That's
is
gonna
not
change.
necessarily. There needs to be more guidance.
I disagree. I've seen the city of New Rochelle being torn down and rebuilt. I've seen lots of the Bronx come down and rebuilt. Sonny and I both have firsthand experience in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and that was a very bad community, and that has been rebuilt. There wasn't a great master plan. You know, if you want to talk about master plans, you can talk about the city of Brasilia that became the capital of Brazil, where Niemeyer and some other architects came down and designed it. The city was designed to look like an airplane. It is the most unlivable city in the Western Hemisphere. People are getting killed. You want to talk about people getting killed? That whole thing was laid out for cars.
But if the community gets to be a very vital part of the redevelopment commission, that's where their request can be heard and be adopted within reason. It's not for us, but they can be very much heard
It's
there,
gonna be
very
their-
much
it's
that's the
their community,
changes
and that's a change.
that they can be made.
Well, at this point, I would like to entertain a motion for adopting the redevelopment commission plan as written and submitted to the Planning and Zoning Board. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion. What's the-
The motion is to adopt the redevelopment commission plan as written.
Okay.
I'm just for a roll call.
Do we have a roll call, please?
Travis Oakley,
Yes.
Marcus Simmons,
No.
Marshall Ballard,
No.
Pat Darcy,
Yes.
Don Black,
Yes.
Ann Shout,
No.
Raymond Layson,
Yes.
Karen Basie,
Yes.
Sonny Aluxa,
Yes.
Margie Dunn.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this point, the next item on the agenda will be the
Comments?
members of this board
Thanks.
to make their comments. Does anybody on this board wish to say anything? Thank you. Ms. Shout.
I would like to let everybody know that the next meeting of the I'm going to use the term Bed and Breakfast Committee, is going to be postponed, shall we say, until the 30th of January. I have a commitment I cannot get out of. So we need to just not have that meeting and wait until the 30th of January for our next meeting.
And Michelle, I'll be in Chapel Hill on Thursday at a school government
So it all works.
short-term rental symposium.
That's even better because you can bring back good information for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Would staff be able to send out an email on our behalf of advising us that such a meeting has been canceled?
I'll do it. That's what I've been doing.
Okay.
That takes a little bit of the pressure off of staff, not a lot, but anything I can do to help.
We're doing really well, actually. It's going very smoothly. You're doing a great job.
Are there any other members of this board that would like to make their comments?
I would like to say, guys, we gotta start somewhere. We keep beating this dead horse, we'll never get Duffield fixed. We won't be 1% of the people in that community's desires at all. And we'll still be where we were in 1977 if we don't do something active. We're never gonna make 100% of what anybody wants. But it's better for us to start and get something rolling, and we can tweak it as we go.
But I think if they get involved with the redevelopment, and I think they probably will more now because they're more educated than they were before, I think that's where the change is going to happen. In a positive.
I would like just to add, I appreciate everybody's passion and
Yes.
working on this. I mean, it raises a lot of passions from both the public and the board members. And I believe that the members of this board earnestly work researching what their conscience says. And the only thing I can say for me is, as for me, I didn't want to miss this opportunity because I see a lot of hardship in that area. And I'm glad that finally something may happen pending on what the Board of Aldermen do. And I'm glad that this board is able to give them support for that. And I thank all the members here on that.
Sir, when will the Board of Aldermen hear this?
Excuse me?
Will it be on the,
When will they hear it?
Hear what case?
This one.
That we approved of it.
When's the next meeting?
When's the next?
Whatever the next meeting is, I imagine, right?
28?
Well, no, it's a public hearing, so it's just mid-February.
It'll be sometime in February, according to Jeffrey. There is going to be as Jeffrey,
First or second meeting in February.
yeah,
First one.
yeah.
So-
There will be a public hearing.
I'll set the public hearing the last meeting of January. I'll set the public hearing for the next meeting in February.
Okay. So public hearing the 28th and then vote the whatever of February, the 14th or whatever.
But now, hold up.
The public hearing will be in February. I need to set a public hearing date. I have an agenda item to set a public hearing for that next meeting in February. So we have a meeting coming up on the 14th. I guess we'll have a meeting on the 28th. On the meeting on the 28th, I'll set the public hearing for the 13th or whatever. I'm just doing math in my head and I'm not very good at that. That first meeting in February.
The meeting, this board meeting appears to have come to an end. Do I have a motion
So moved.
to end the meeting?
Second.
We had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes. This meeting is now closed.